voting on this, Mauricio?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WBC Talks. Stay home, stay safe. I want to bring all these chats to your home. Don't get bored.
Oh, there you go.
Outside your home, you have to stay home. And stay. We have
Jalina,
great
I just
topics
spoke
here.
to you.
I know.
We have great people also. I want to introduce some of them, all of them, and I think I'm going to start. Sorry for not doing ladies first this time, but I want to introduce first 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗 and Malte.
Jill is a lady. Come on.
I made a mistake. I was going to go with Malte, and then I thought about you, about WBC. But let's go first with Malte, you know, because you're the stars. Malte, he's the chairman of the WBC. Please, Malte, hello.
Hello, Victor. Hello, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here to all of our champs, reigning and former. We'll have some more coming in. Hi, Jelena. Hey, Christy, Tina. And of course, Mark Taffet is here with us. Women's Boxing Manager of the Year 2018, 19, every year, I believe. Something like that. So yeah, we're gonna spend the evening where I am, because I'm in Germany, so it's 9 p.m. over here. So I'm gonna spend my evening with you talking about women's boxing, about development in women's boxing, and about what we can do to make it even better and bigger. So yeah, just looking forward to a nice conversation.
Thank you, Malte. And now, introduce 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗. She's the WBC Cares chairman and one of the best persons I ever met in my life. I have to say that. And she's multiple times Emmy winner. As you can see, she has one right next to her.
And why do I have that next to me, Victor?
Because I asked you to. I want to brag about my friend, you know. But I ask you to put the 14 or 16 that you have at home to be all around.
Oh, God.
You're welcome.
I'm so pleased to be here. And hi, Raja. Raja is here.
Hey, Jill. Hi, Raja.
I mean,
Hey
I've been here since I think it was 2005 when it all began with 𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡𝗗. And the way it's grown and changed and morphed and so much more to come. Just so exciting. Glad to see everyone looking well and healthy.
We just had the Spanish version of this, and it was Ana Maria Torres there. She was explaining how in 2002 she was fighting the national title with Mariana Juarez, and Don Jose Suleiman was there. And he got so excited with that fight that he said, we have to have the WBC women title too. And he decided at that moment to start doing everything. And now I want to go. I'm sorry, as you can see, Mauricio is connected, but he's doing a lot of other things. I'm not going to do ladies first. I want to go men first because you're the star, so you're going to be the closing of this. I want to introduce Mark Taffet. He was a senior vice president of HBO Sports and ran the pay-per-view program for more than 20 years. Now he is the manager of 𝗧𝗓𝗏 Shields and in 2018, Women's Boxing Manager of the Year. He's representing 𝗧𝗓𝗏 Shields. She's 10 victories, 2 KOs, NABF middleweight champion, super middleweight WBC silver champion, super middleweight world champion, middleweight world champion, diamond belt middleweight world champion, undisputed middleweight, current WBC super welter champion, and a lot of more. She has everything. I want to show the video, Mark, if you don't mind. We want to see Clarissa's video first.
Sure. Love it. Thank you.
That's Clarissa, and this is Mark Tappet. He's doing
How are you?
excellent job. Mark, it's so good to have you here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I love seeing everyone. I'm thrilled that you've got some of your champions and your fighters here as well. And it's a great time for people to stay connected and be in touch. So we really appreciate, and all the fans appreciate what you're doing at the WBC.
Thank you, Mark. And now I have the pleasure to know her and to introduce her. She's one of the best, one of the first to be in a magazine, and she opened the path for all of you. 𝗧𝗟𝗡𝗗 Martin, 49 fights, victories, 31 KOs. Women boxing pioneer, started career in 1989, and WBC super welter world champion. And it's really, really a pleasure to have her with us. I want to show the video first and then say hi to her. Please run the video. Christy, it's a huge pleasure to have you here.
It's a great honor to be here with everybody today. And, just to talk about women's boxing, and let's see what we can do to keep that fire lit under the sport and to keep it growing.
Thank you, Christy. And now, 𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡𝗗. I said it right. I've been practicing, 40 victories, 19 KOs, WBC super feather champion, current WBC feather world champion, and a great friend, a great human being. 𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡𝗗, I want to show the video. Well, that's 𝗥𝗢𝗨. Now I want to introduce Christina Tina Ruprecht. 10 victories, 3 KOs, 1 draw. Silver minimum weight WBC champion, interim WBC minimum weight champion, and current WBC minimum weight champion since 2018. Tina, it's so good to have you here. Thank you. Let's watch the video first.
Okay.
Welcome, Tina. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Where are you?
I'm here tonight.
Where are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's an honor for me to be here with you.
Yeah, but where? Where are you?
I'm at home in Germany, in Augsburg.
Oh, okay. Welcome and thank you.
Here.
Now I want to introduce 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗞𝗦. Raja, 22 victories, 4 KOs, 1 draw, WBC silver champion, WBC Superfly Diamond champion, and current member of the WBC committee. We have been, every time we meet, we have endless talks. And she showed me a lot of good things about her. I want to introduce Raja, and I want to show the video first. Well, I want to thank you and welcome everybody. And I want to start asking, why boxing? Who wants to go first?
Why not boxing?
Good answer.
You know what? Other than why not? Because everybody told us that we couldn't do it and we shouldn't do it. So me being the person that I am, I wanted to show people in my community, people in my state, and then people in the world that I can do this. Women can go out there and be exciting fighters and bring a lot of excitement to these big cards that that everybody tunes in to see.
Yeah, I would agree with Christy. You know, my story was I kind of got into boxing for cross training, and then I was watching a fight with my dad, and we were joking about how much money the men get made, and I kind of made a joke and said, "Dad, I think we're in the wrong profession." And I said, "It's one night. Like, why can't we do this?" And he said, "It's not that easy. I bet you can do it." So for me, it was more of a challenge, and then, you know, my stubbornness came out, and I became, like Christy, one of the pioneers of our sport. And I've been in this since 2003, and actually one of the WBC's first super featherweight world champion ever. So to be able to be a part of that and grow and develop the sport for me has been, you know, one of the driving forces behind me staying into it. So,
Raja,
Me
do you want
actually,
to say
and
something?
yeah, and I never when I started with martial arts, when I started with kickboxing before boxing, I never challenged myself or asked the question why a woman shouldn't do that. It wasn't there in my universe. And then when I started, I just suddenly realized that a lot of women wouldn't do that, and I didn't understood that. So for me, that wasn't even a question. It was something I wanted to do, something I wanted to compete in, something I was good in. So I never came up with the question why it should be boxing. It could have been football or something else. It didn't matter. It was something I wanted to do. So for me, it was not even the question, why shouldn't we do that in my world? I later learned that there is this question.
I want to thank 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗞𝗦 for joining us. I want to introduce her. She's 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗞𝗦, 8 victories, 3 KOs. She's the current WBC super lightweight champion since 2018, and it's a pleasure to have her here. I want to show her video before she talks. Please have her video on. Is it ready? Oh, this is production, you know.
It's live.
Jessica, welcome.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you here. I just ask everybody, why boxing? Could you tell us why?
Boxing definitely chose me. I have participated in many different sports as a child, whether it was basketball or softball, cheerleading, poms. I had never participated in I guess you could call it like a single athlete sport. And my competition level with anything, I mean, we could be, playing checkers or chess, and my competition level is just very high and always has been. And once I got into boxing, I started off with a kickboxing class, and I just wanted to kind of move to the next level and compete and things like that. And once I switched over to boxing, it skyrocketed and it never stopped.
Thank you. Christina. Tina,
Yeah.
do you prefer Tina?
Yeah, I prefer Tina.
Tina, why boxing?
Well, I'm similar to Raja. I started with kickboxing, and I never asked myself the question, why boxing? For me, I fell in love with this sport, and I just wanted to fight, and I recognized that I'm very good at that, and so I had the dream to become a champion, and I love the fight. I love the competition, and yeah, for me, and I think for all boxers, it's more than a sport. It's a lifestyle. It's yeah, it's a compassion, a passion.
Okay, they just told me that the video for Jessica is ready, so I want to see her fighting. Please roll it. Jill, I want to know why you choose boxing too. Why boxing? Your microphone is off. Jill, your microphone is off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, it was quite by accident, in a sense that when my father-in-law was a very prominent boxer out of Oklahoma, out of Dallas. When my husband passed, I started boxing to feel better. It gave me a sense of power. I felt like I was back in my body. And I met all of these amazing women. And the only one I'd ever heard of was Christy Martin. I kept thinking, who are all these amazing women, and why haven't we ever heard of them? So I literally knew nothing about boxing, went through like the sports pages and said, okay, this looks like the biggest organization, sent an email to contact@wbcboxing.com saying basically what's happening with the women, and they answered me back. I got a phone call from someone named Mauricio Suleiman. Who are you? Come and meet with my father if you really believe women should box. We're just thinking about doing that now. It was literally that crazy. And then, like everyone else who is not a boxer knows that when you get involved with boxing, it starts as a hobby, and then it starts as your mistress, and then it eats your life, and you become completely married to the sport. There's no little way to do boxing. So I loved it. I enjoyed it. I felt so much for the athletes, and it just grew from there. So that's why boxing, and I still work out. Clearly, I wouldn't want any of these women to come into the ring with me, but I think by working out, it gives you a sense of empathy also, just a little bit, knowing, I mean, most people don't know, hold your hands up just for 3 minutes, how much energy that takes. So I love boxing. I particularly love women's boxing, or I should say women who box.
Thank you, Jill. I want to know how.
Victor, one thing. Let's go with Mark. Mark, why boxing?
Very interesting. So in 1990, I was working at HBO in the finance department. Was a young man who was asked to go to the sports department. and help them write a strategy for what they should do going forward. At the time, HBO had Mike Tyson fighting, and Mike was getting paid $3 million per fight back then, which was more money than anyone was paying for any boxer for television. So I did the study, and I found out that in 6 cities across America, there were these little microwave dish antennas on people's rooftops, and more money was being generated showing fights in 6 cities on those dishes for fighters like Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, than HBO was paying for national rights. So I concluded, if we don't get into this business of going to people's homes directly with boxing, HBO is going to lose its boxing franchise. I got the plan approved by the board of directors of Time Warner, and they said, well, somebody has to run this business. Do you want to try it? And I said, oh my God. And that changed my role in the sport. It got me into boxing, it changed my career path, and it changed my life. And that was the beginning of HBO pay-per-view. Our very first fight was Evander Holyfield against George Foreman at the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City, where Donald Trump was back then the head of the hotel. And we had a magnificent success. We generated $53 million in one night. And that was really the night that pay-per-view was born. And 190 fights later, I retired from HBO in 2015. And I said, you know, I did great commerce over 25 years. But I want to do something meaningful. What can I do to give back to the sport? And I said, I think I'm going to try to help women's boxing, because I believe that the quality in women's boxing was outstanding. The fighters were outstanding, and they weren't being given the chance. I had seen a few women's fights. We hadn't done much at HBO. We did do a little bit on HBO pay-per-view. Showtime was actually busier with fights then. Christie with Don King was on TV a number of times, and they were making history. And I saw this young lady from the Olympics, Clarissa Shields, and I stalked her for 6 months and finally said to her, I'll work for you for free for a certain period of time, of course, just to have the opportunity to show you that I can help you and help women's boxing. And I have to say, it's been the most meaningful experience of my career. And I thank the Lord for the day that Clarissa said, why don't you come on board and see if we can make some moves here.
Thank you, Mark. And now you, Malti.
Oh, well, I go with Jessica. I didn't choose boxing. Boxing chose me. I used to work with media, doing sports journalism. And when all of a sudden I ended up in a promotional company, people asked me, can you do this? And whenever somebody asks me, can you do this? I always say yes, just as a reaction. Just can't help it. So I started doing it. And then, like Jill said, you know, boxing just gets into your blood and you just can't stop. So I was basically working for that promoter for way too long, 7-8 years. And then after that, when I said, well, actually, I'm done with boxing and I want to get out of this, then Don Jose came to me and said, listen, we need to keep you in boxing, in the industry. So when you're not working with the promoter anymore, please come help us. And I had been in boxing for long enough to know that the only person at that point who could have convinced me to stay in boxing was actually 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗. And well, he did. It was very hard to say no to that. So here I am. And then later on, Mauricio asked me if I would take over and chair the women's committee. And when I was working for the promoter, we hadn't really promoted women's boxing. And I said, well, sure, of course I can do that. And I was, from day one, I was so impressed because there was basically at that moment no money in this business. And still all these women were fighting for their lives. They were not fighting for money. You know, I think there's a reason that we have a word like journeyman, but we don't have a word like journeywoman. I don't think there are journey women. I think every woman who steps into the ring wants to win the fight, and that was what really impressed me. And I saw all these women doing regular day-to-day jobs just to pay their bills, and fighting in their spare time. You know, training before they go to the office, training after they return from the office, and basically investing the money they make on the wheel in boxing. I mean, it was crazy, and I'm still so impressed by all these great champions, reigning and past champions. And I thought, well, we have to help them, and we have to make the world understand how big and how important this is, and they all need to get the exposure, and they need to get the payment that they deserve.
I want to welcome Mauricio Suleiman, president of the WBC. He's just joining the chat. Welcome, Mauricio.
Thank
Your
you.
mic-
Yes, hello. I'm sorry I'm late. I had another meeting. It's great to see you all. It's great to see our champions, to see Mark, to see Malte and Jill, of course, and you champions who make us proud in all aspects. Jelena, our prayers are with your coach. We know it's a difficult time for you, but he's a warrior and he will make it. And Raya, your WBC representative in the board, we're very proud of you. Jessica McCaskill, very nice to see you. Chrissy Salters Martin, my hero, the inspiration, the greatest human being to ever step in the ring. I love you, Christy.
Thank you, Mauricio.
And Christina, all the way to Europe. How are you? Good to see you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to interrupt, so please proceed.
We also have to congratulate Christy on her induction, which unfortunately has been postponed to next year. But congratulations, Christy, on being inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much, Joe. As you can imagine, it was a crushing phone call when Ed Brophy called to tell me that the Hall of Fame induction would be delayed a year. But at the same time, I mean, obviously, I realize that we're in a much bigger situation with our world than my boxing induction. So, but as I said, personally, it was one of those like a sucker punch almost. But you know, I know that next year is going to be great, and we'll just spend the next year just living and knowing that dream is going to be seen.
Well, you are used to postponements and cancellations. The
Amen.
$1 million fight. Remember,
You know, so many times with Don King and Mike Tyson, fights were delayed and canceled, and then of course the biggest fight of my career, Lucia Riker, to fight for that $1 million purse, got scrapped with 7 days to go. So yes, you're absolutely right. I'm used to delays and cancellations. Boxing will break your heart.
You knew that since the beginning?
Did I know that boxing would break my heart from the beginning?
Yep.
You know, I did. My very first professional fight, I was called to come to Bristol, Tennessee to fight and to fight the promoter's girl. But of course, I don't know the business of boxing, and that if you're going to this girl's hometown to fight on her promoter's show, it's going to be a very tough fight for you to win. And in 4 rounds, I knocked her down. In my opinion, I beat the crap out of her for 4 rounds, and I got a draw. So I learned the lessons of boxing breaking your heart very early in my career.
Now, I want to ask you, how was the first time that you got into a boxing gym? It must be hard. And anything you want to tell us? Who wants to talk first? I think you should go, Christy.
Well, I think, you know, my first time into a boxing gym was way back in 1989. So probably before a lot of our champions now were actually born. You know, when I walked in the gym, clearly you're in a place where you're not wanted. The coach doesn't want to train you. The other fighters don't want you in the gym. It was tough. I mean, we broke a lot of doors, even though I, being somewhat of a historian, not Bert Sugar type and those guys, but I realized that there were many women that came before me. And in the 70s, we had Jackie Tonawanda and those girls, as Jill was aware of, in New York, that all got a license to box in New York. And then even before that, back into the 1890s, we had women boxing. So doors have been knocked down as we came along. But throughout my career, I feel like with the help of Tyson, Don King, Showtime, I think we helped to break that ceiling just a little bit more.
wants to go next?
I'll go next. I started boxing in 2008, and I started off with a kickboxing class, and so that was a lot more integrated, a lot of males and females together, and it was just kind of an easy atmosphere. And in the same gym, there was a boxing trainer that was training actual fighters, and that's what I ended up transferring over to. So at that point, there was maybe one other female there, and it wasn't super difficult. It was more so just, you know, can you hang in there? Can you handle this? And just being able to show that I was able to do that and continue through the workouts and then get into sparring and get into my first exhibition match and things like that. That's what made it just kind of easy, just being able to handle everything that was tossed my way.
Jelena.
I can talk about my experience. So I got into boxing because I tore my ACL playing basketball at university. So I kind of got into it by mistake. I've said my story earlier, but I walked into a gym, and I was actually writing this the other day in a newsletter for my studio. And I vividly remember it. I walked in, guy, bigger, older guy, long ponytail, gray ponytail, kind of scraggly, big belly, cigarette hanging out of his mouth because you could still smoke indoors back then because this is 2001. And he like looked at me, he's like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, I came to work out," right? Like I just wanted to get a little workout in. And he's like, "Okay, we'll see if you can do this." And so I went through, you know, numerous amounts of drills. I think I skipped for like 40 minutes, and I was not a skipper back then. And he just kind of put me through the grind. And I remember, I think it was me and like one other person in this hot attic in a summer day. I was sweating, it stunk, it was gross, and everything to do, basically to try and kick me out of the gym I did that day. I think I was there for 3 hours, my first workout. And right my very first day, I started doing drills with someone, and it was kind of like a catch a jab, throw a jab drill. And the girl, it was one other girl in the gym, and she smoked me right in the nose, kind of like, "Oh, you're in my turf. This is what it's going to be like." And I remember my eyes were watering. I remember my nose was sore. I didn't even have a mouthpiece, like nothing. And I was like, that was the worst / best feeling of my life. How am I going to keep going doing this? Now, you remember, this was back in 2001, I think, when I first walked into the gym. And it really wasn't accepted back then. Like Christy said, like this was a long time ago. This was before women's boxing was in the Olympics, before the WBC even recognized female champions. So, you know, really people like Christy and like myself were the ones who really broke down the doors for the fighters like Clarissa and all these other girls who are getting the TV time. So I really appreciate Christy Martin. She was someone that I really looked up to when I started because I didn't have a lot of role models. So getting back to the story about being in the gym, I just refuse not to leave. And I refuse to be that person who's going to quit. And I'm very thankful for the stubbornness that my mom and dad instilled in me. And for that reason, because, you know, because of the people who were stubborn, like myself and like Christy, we were able to open the doors for a lot of fighters.
Tina, your microphone is mute.
Okay, you hear me? My first time in a boxing gym was in 2005. I was 12 years, and it was a kickboxing gym. And I was there for 1 year. Then I wanted to change to boxing because I didn't like my legs. And I came to my coach where I'm now. I'm still with him today. At first, he wasn't very used to women boxing, and but he saw that I was like a little boy. I just wanted to fight, and he saw that I really had the will to do it. And so he said, "Okay, let's do it." And he began to train me, and then I did my first fight at the age of 15. Yeah, and then it started my way where I am now.
Thank you. Raja, your microphone is mute.
Well, it's a little bit like home office. My microphone is mute. I should have learned this in the third week of home office now. Yeah, when I just started with martial arts, it was around 2002 or 3 or something with kickboxing. And when I started with kickboxing, it wasn't such a difference between male and female. There were competition for both genders. Of course, less females than male, but still there was competition and there was like a contest and everything was fine. And then around 2004 or 5, something around that, I decided to go to boxing. So I started with amateur boxing. And when I went to the amateur German championship, I was really shocked because it was the third. It was something around 2007 or something. And I expected with having 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗 in Germany and having all these people viewing the fights and all this media around women boxing that it's something really established, but it was not. And it was a little bit of shocking, but still somehow okay. So when I went to the gym then for boxing, I had somebody who saw something in me, a little bit like Chelina maybe, somebody who saw something and who gave you a hard time, but still supported you somehow, even it was common to be a female in the sport. And then I thought like everybody else, I think we just fought through and fought for our time on the events and our opportunities, as everybody did at this time. It was like the early 2000 something, a little bit different than today. So here in Germany, after Regina just retired, women boxing was really down. So we just brought it up again, I think like something around my generation, and we brought it up again to television, and it's something which we should all be proud about. Yeah, so this transfer was a little bit shocking from kickboxing to boxing, just to understand that there's a difference between the genders. But still my stubbornish me, I couldn't care less. I just wanted to fight.
Malte, want to take over?
Yes, of course. I want to ask you, what special moments do you remember from your career? Funny moments, the funniest moment in your career, maybe the most difficult moment during your career. Maybe, Mark, why don't you start with the funniest boxing memory you have?
Oh my God. Well, unfortunately, my top 3 moments, I don't think I can say. Get myself in a lot of trouble. I'll tell you the funniest moment, or the most spectacular moment, because it was funny and spectacular. In 1999, Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield, in the midst of a strike by the NBA, were scheduled to fight at Madison Square Garden for the undisputed heavyweight world championship. And we were touring the country. Back in those days, when you didn't have social media and the ability to do a worldwide tour with a few, from your desk, you had to travel. So we did a 14-city tour in 8 days. And one day we went to Chicago, and we were scheduled for a 9 a.m. press conference because we were doing 2-a-days then, and we had to get out of town and go fly to Philadelphia from there. So at 9 o'clock in the morning, everybody's ready to go. Don King was the promoter of Evander Holyfield then, and Don wasn't there. So I said, what the heck is going on? I found out Don's room number, and I ran up to his hotel room, banged on the door, no answer. But suddenly I heard that bellowing laugh, in the background. I knew he was in that room. And I'm banging on the door and banging on the door. You got to come down. You're making them wait 2 hours. You got to be down. Let's go. Don had an assistant at the time who was a wonderful guy that I'm sure Christy remembers, Isidore. And Isidore opens the door. Now, when Isidore opens the door, he takes up about 3/4 of the doorway because he's a big, wide man. So basically, I ran between his legs and I ran into Don's bedroom down the hall. Well, when I walked into the bedroom, Don was sitting there in his pajamas, his hair was flat on his head. He hadn't done his hair yet. And I don't think, I thought I was going to faint. I never saw anything like it. Don King, without that hair, being 6 to 8 inches high, and that was quite a sight. And he definitely woke me up, and I started yelling at him and said, Don, let's go, you got to get down. So he yells, Isidore, the comb. And Isidore comes running in, and on a pillow sits the comb, and he brings it in like a holy ceremony. And Don takes the comb, brushes his hair up, puts on a robe, runs downstairs, and he did his press conference just like that in Chicago. So it was quite memorable, I have to say, for a lot of reasons.
And Mark, I'm gonna bet you cleaned that up just a little bit.
I cleaned it up a little bit. The pajamas cleaned up a lot, yeah.
Christy, do you have maybe a Don King moment or another funny moment you want to share with us?
Wow. You know, I don't know that I had so many funny moments during my career because everybody just wanted to knock me out. So there wasn't a lot of funniness. I mean, being at the press conferences with Don, he's comical. He makes you laugh, and you know, after you hear it about 4 or 5 times, you're tired of it, you know. But the first few times it's kind of comical, it's funny, and you're like, wow, this guy's, you know, he's a real character, and he's hysterical. But yeah, I didn't have a lot of funny moments. I had a lot of very special moments, but not so much funny moments.
Oh, wait, I don't mean to interrupt, but Christy, since you're talking about Don King, I got to tell you this one. When Roy Jones and Felix Trinidad were fighting, I was with Don at the HBO building. The fight was to take place at Madison Square Garden. So we had to go to the Garden for the press conference. And the press conference was being held right around Christmas time. And Don had just come to the HBO building to surprise the employees at our annual party with about 1,500 people. And Don came dressed as Santa Claus, which was quite a sight for sore eyes. So Don says, let me change. I said, Don, we don't have time to change. I was only kidding. He says, okay, let's go. So from the HBO building on 42nd Street, we walked down to Madison Square Garden on 34th Street with Don King dressed as Santa Claus. And I mean, 1,000 New Yorkers must have run up to him, couldn't believe what they were seeing. And Don is running down the street yelling, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, shaking his hand. And he did the entire press conference dressed as Santa Claus and took photos and everything. So he was quite the good sport. Yeah.
He was a great character, but one thing I'll bet you was he wasn't passing out $100 bills.
No.
I have a great story that I like to share because this tells you what this woman is about. Christy Martin has had a whole life, like 10 lifetimes in one, with ups and downs. And she had a very difficult moment, as we all know. And that also included financially. She had some financial problems. And she has worked so hard to get back and to be successful. So a couple of years ago, we go to Phoenix to do a program with kids and WBC Amateur, WBC Cares, several things. And Christy is there and she keeps insisting, oh, we have to go for dinner. We want to have a dinner. So there's so many people, we're trying to shuffle everything to see what time we can do the dinner or the lunch. Jill, were you there?
No, I wasn't. I've heard the story though. It's beautiful.
So finally, Christy recommends the restaurant. Let's go to this steakhouse. And I said, yes, let's go. It's about 8 of us. I tell her, it's about 8 of us, so please reserve for 10. And we want this to be a very special dinner. You come and you're gonna be our guests, blah, 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 blah. So we get there, we have 8 of us. We have delicious wine and good food, lots of laughs and a lot of great happiness happening. So when I asked for the check, Christy, she says, I'm sorry, I have to leave early. And she starts to leave, okay? When I ask for the check, the manager of the restaurant comes in and says, it has been paid for. And it was Christy who invited us all for dinner in one of the most beautiful moments that we have shared. And that just speaks huge about what Christy is and what she has done to turn around her life and to always stay so close to the WBC family. And you are my hero, Christy.
Thank you, Mauricio. And yes, because so many people, I'm sure they hear that the WBC helps fighters when they're down on their luck and they need a little help. And you just wonder, do they really get help? Are they really getting help? How is it working? This and that. Well, I really needed help. And the WBC was there to help me out financially. And, you know, by the grace of God and my beautiful wife, Lisa, we were able to do this dinner, and it was a great dinner. Three Forks here in Austin, Texas is great food. So anytime, you know, you come back and the WBC's back here in town, you have a standing invitation with us there. Yeah, it was great. And it was a great night. And it was very special that you would take the time with the group from the WBC to have dinner with me and Lisa. Thank you.
Can I add to that, which is the play it forward thing? Christy does some of the most beautiful work with amateurs. Her tournament has grown and grown and grown. And if you see her working with those kids, it's unbelievable. It's a real play it forward situation. It's a beautiful, beautiful tournament.
Thank you, Jill. We're working hard at it, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that July
I
is going to
love
happen.
the last one. It was 3 rings and the kids were like walking around like gods. It was unbelievable.
Yelena, do you remember?
WBC medals and pink belts.
Yes.
There you
The mini belt, beautiful. Jelena, do you remember in Cancun when Holyfield was hitting on you and your sister?
He was not hitting on
I
me.
remember.
He was not hitting on me. So just to clarify, he was hitting on my
Crazy,
baby.
crazy for you.
No, my sister, who at the time was 18 years old. So yeah, that was quite an experience. So the evening that Maurizio was talking about was the Night of Champions. When was that? 2003?
2006.
2006, yes. 2006 Night of Champions. And that was such a great, I think it was, I've been to a lot of the WBC conventions and whatnot. That has to be one of my favorite all-time memories.
Oh, time.
It was a long time ago, but it was a lot of fun and, you know, a lot of amazing people. And that was, you know, the WBC had just started recognizing female champions. So there was only a handful of us females there. I think it was me, Jackie Nava, Ana Maria Torres.
Can you see Jelena in this? It's very small, but that's Jelena.
Oh yeah, there.
That's Jelena, baby Jelena, baby
Sharon
Jelena,
Agnos
𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡𝗗
was there.
Jeffries, and that's Jackie Nava up on the shoulders.
In the fight, yeah. And so yes, I don't know how or where or why Evander had a liking to my sister, and it was funny because we went to that one club. All of the world champions went, and there was a couple heavyweights, and I had made friends with a few of them. And Evander comes up and asks my baby sister Milica to dance. And I laughed, and this was very entertaining for me because I was like, Milica, he was on Dancing with the Stars. You have to dance with them. So I shoot her off to go dance. And then all of a sudden I see Lennox Lewis watching on the corner. I see Shannon Briggs was watching and someone else. And then they were like, Canada, come over here. They're like, you do realize that you're going to start a fight in the middle of this club because we're going to be protecting your little sister. And I was like, no, it's all fun. It was a big joke, but it was quite entertaining. Yes, I do remember that. My poor sister's scarred for life.
Do you have that picture by any chance, Victor, that I sent of the ladies in the glove that was taken in Cancun? I sent it earlier today.
Let me check if it's ready.
It was Jackie, Jelena. Jackie, who was wearing sunglasses because she had that big black eye that she'd gotten the night before from 𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡𝗗 Jeffries, Laura Serrano, and Sharon Agnos.
Oh, Sharon was, yes.
Sharon was, woo! Sharon was unbelievable. And I also, yeah, it's a great picture. But I just wanted to show quickly, this is the picture of our very first champions. I don't know if you can see it there. But these were the very first. And then Jelena was our first featherweight, super featherweight champion, but these were the first women champions that we had. They were great. Sharon was one of them. And I don't know if anyone remembers Mary Jo Sanders, but boy, was she amazing. She was an amazing fighter.
Time Laila Lee was the WBC champion.
She was, yeah, she's in that picture too, heavyweight.
Why didn't you read the champions at that time?
Light heavyweight. We had her as light heavyweight then. We had Stephanie Bianchi. We had two girls from North Korea, one girl from South Korea, 𝗥𝗢𝗨𝗡𝗗, and Mary Jo Saunders. Oh, and Sharon. And we were the WBC females then. I don't even want to remember that with Don Majeski. Females, they should be women. You don't go to the men's room. You don't go to the male room. You go to the men's room. Women. Now they're just champions.
Jessica, do you have a special story or memory that you want to share with us? Some very emotional, funny moment, maybe?
Yeah, probably one of the most emotional moments in my boxing career. I was fighting here in Chicago, and it was for the WBC in 2018. And the year itself had just been really crazy, up and down. There were about 5 different fights that we were supposed to have that fell through. We were trying to get on like the opposite side of people who their fights had fallen through. We were pretty much trying to do anything to stay busy and stay relevant. We had a fight that was scheduled to be in the Bahamas, and then it got canceled, and then it got rescheduled, and then there was like a hurricane or something, and it was just like nothing that we were trying to do was working. And so I took it as, you know, God telling me to just sit down and be patient and just keep working, which we did. And so we got a call for the WBC fight in October of 2018. And, you know, great training, long time coming, won the fight, got my first belt. And my mom had snuck in town from St. Louis, Missouri. And I didn't know she was there the whole time until I was like walking out of the ring with the belt on. And I turned to the crowd and she's like yelling. And it was just like an amazing moment because I didn't know she was there to see it. And I was kind of thinking like, I hope she sees it, and I hope like somebody's telling her or something, and then she's there in the crowd. So there's one person that got a picture of it too, the embrace. So that was probably the most special moment.
Nice.
Tina, what about you?
Well, one of my one funny moment was I had my first WBC fight. It was 2017, and it was WBC interim, and it was a smaller event, about 1,000 people, and I was the main event, and I came later to the event, and I drove by myself with my own car. And then I arrived, and I wanted to go to the back door to my dressing room, and the security man wouldn't let me in. He said, "Who are you?" And I told him, "I'm Tina Ruprecht. I'm the main event. I have to warm up." And he told me, "No, you just 1.5 meters. I won't let you in." And so I had to call my coach, and I told him, "Coach, they don't let me in." And so they sent it a guy of my team, and he explained that I'm the main fighter. And yeah, so I came a bit later to the warm up, but I won the fight despite.
Raja, any moment you want to share?
Du hast nicht erzählt, dass welche Wechsel hatten die Personal.
There were so many stories, a little bit like Tina, similar, when they will not let you in, and then you were like, "I'm the one on the poster. You should let me in." Things like this. But I think the most, I don't know if it's funny or if it's more like getting you a little bit angry, event was in Berlin. From Berlin, which is the capital of Germany, and my family lives in Berlin. and they had a fight on a Eurosport card, which is a major TV station here. And my family just took the opportunity to be there, including my mom. And some of you know that I have like 2 national identities. So my other passport would be Jordan. So she invited the complete Jordan, including all the administration, press, and everything. And then she was like around the ring with all the press people. And I didn't allow them to come to the locker room or everything. I didn't give them VIP entrance just to the main event, but I couldn't care less. They were in the locker room really fast. And then after this, every round I had, like in between the fight, in between the rounds where I fought, in the break, I had to shout on to the people sitting there, and just to go out of the ring. She shouldn't be there. She's not fighting. So she didn't listen. Anyhow, that was like a little bit funny and scary in the same moment, because I had to like push my mom, like, you are focused on the fight. Then you have like to kick your mom off of the ring. Your trainer couldn't even enter the ring. But I think Malte was there at that event. It was a really funny one, because after this event, the ring was full of Arabic people and broadcasting it around the Middle East. And I thought they thought it's funny, and they thought they should be proud. And I thought, you should go out of the ring, because I want to fight now here somehow. So I think that's something which I just memorized from that event. But there were a lot of real and remarkable situations and ups and downs. And most of the fights, actually, Malte was there. So I think every fight of myself was either the fight was entertaining or the surrounding somehow, right?
Now, Christy, now you hear the stories about the fighters who have to explain that they're the main event fighters, and they're the fighters on the posters. We know that we've come a long way, and you hearing that and seeing how women's boxing has developed, how do you see women's boxing today compared to the time when you were fighting?
Oh, it's a complete turnaround. I mean, now it isn't. It's really not out of the ordinary that a woman be on the fight card, and it's not even out of the ordinary that a woman be the main event on a fight card. Back when I started in 1989, ringside positions were still saying, of course you're not a fighter, so why would I give you the pre-fight physical? I was still changing in janitor's closets, so it's come so far, but yeah, we still have so far to go, and we just can't let our foot off, take our feet off the gas. We have to keep pushing forward and trying to create excitement. I mean, when we get back to boxing, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later, just to keep making the fights that matter and putting the best against the best, and doing whatever we have to do to get TV executives to take notice and to put these fights on TV, so that the fans can see that, look, women are bringing, honestly, I think we bring more excitement than about 75% of the men's fights, because we still feel like we have so much to prove. We're not just going out there for a payday. We're going out there because we want to prove not only to the opponent that we're the best, but we want to prove to the fans and to the world that we belong. So we still have so far to go.
I just want to follow up on that for a minute, what Christy was talking about. I mean, Christy, can you imagine? I used to have this conversation with George Foreman when he first met Oscar De La Hoya, and George said, boy, I wish if I was as young as that kid, first coming into this pay-per-view era, can you imagine what I could do? Can you imagine if today's environment, where a network like Showtime has 6, 7, or 8 cards headlined by a woman, where almost every big fight, every big pay-per-view fight has a major women's bout on it. Katie Taylor has been on a number of situations like that. And where almost every fight card, the fight of the night is the women's fight. And I really think that women as a label is going to go away soon. And it's just going to be a fight, and it's just going to be pound for pound, and it's just going to be top 10, and it's just going to be champion. We can see an acceleration in these changes. Can you imagine if someone with your skill, your personality, your perseverance and your excellence, your passion was fighting today, how much you'd be able to help, you know, like a Bronco, blow right through those gates and continue to expand. And I always talk to Clarissa about that. And anytime I have a chance to work with or speak with a women boxer, I talk to them about that. Women have responsibilities that the men don't have. Women have to fight 3 times as hard to get 1/3 of the recognition. They have to fight 3 times as often to get 1/3 of the money. The only thing they don't have to do is fight 3 times to be 1/3 as good. It's actually quite the opposite. The women, as you said, because of their heart poured into it, are given the best performances of the night, night in and night out. I'm very optimistic. I think over the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to see all the gender labels dropped. There's more women coming into the sport, more women with great skills in the gym regularly. All of that is what happens in this phase where the base foundation starts to be fed, and then it sprouts and it grows. And I think we're in over the next few years for a great, great change. And there are more networks and more platforms than ever televising boxing. I know in my case, there isn't a conversation that I'm involved in where I'm not pushing, even with all the men that I manage, women being on those cards, if not headlining them. And I'm very optimistic. I remember what it was like in 1990 when we started HBO pay-per-view in 1991 and how I saw those changes taking place. I feel the same changes are taking place for women now. You can see it, it's right there. And with the perseverance of the young women that are fighting today, and with the constant push of people like myself, you folks at the WBC, we're going to do this, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Well, I think, and to add on to that, Mark, what you were saying was, I think that groundwork has already been placed in, and you have these, I think we just need to get, like you said, these networks to buy into it, you know, like DAZN is doing a great job with it. Showtime is doing a great job, but they have to take that model like the UFC did. And what they've done is they've bought into their female champions and they've promoted them. And now I think they're the most exciting fights that they're showing, actually, as a matter of fact. And I'm not a big fan of a lot of the mixed martial arts. I prefer, obviously, the classic boxing. That's why I'm doing what I do. However, the model that they use, the business model that the UFC used with those females and buying in and supporting them and promoting them, that is something that boxing needs to do. And I've been saying this for years, since the UFC really got behind it. We need to really try to find someone to emulate what they did for us, or for them, sorry. And we need someone to do that for us. I think you're doing a great job with Clarissa, and same thing with people who are working with Katie Taylor. And we need to continue that and to grow that, and really to have people buy in to support more.
You know, I actually spent a lot of time talking. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And just to add on,
go ahead.
In Germany, we had the situation that we had somebody or 2, 3 who were really promoted and had all the views and all the television time and everything. It was really great. But once they retired, the market broke completely down. So I think what we see today is we are promoting 2, 3 women, so individuals, which is awesome women, but are we really promoting the sport? And that's the main difference what Virginia was talking about, the UFC. UFC is not promoting one woman, they are promoting the complete sport as a league, if you want. So we are like focusing on 2, 3 women, but what happened after them?
It's also a different
Who's
business
next?
model, Raja.
That's true, but
They
still,
own the
what happened?
entity. So they're promoting the entity and the women within that entity.
And that's true, but still, but what happened if Clarissa retired at some point? Who's the next? Saying as one brand, as a women boxing brand, doesn't matter who is in, and the best will have the best views for whatever, if you want, and just to put on the woman boxing instead of individuals.
And
You
this
know
is
what gives
why I
me the
brought up
most
Showtime and DAZN, because they've been doing a great job at starting to add these women. They just need to continue, and we need, like everybody is saying, those exciting fights to continue. Christy said that you need to put these exciting fights on. We are the ones that sell the shows. Mark, you said it yourself. The women are usually the most exciting.
The thing that gives me the most encouragement, and I think Christy is a part of this, is if you look at the amateurs now, it's like the last amateur. I went to the one that Blanca does in California. 75 young women, girls, little girls stepped in the ring. The amount of young women that are looking at you people as role models. I mean, we identify with the people we see on TV. I grew up in a generation where there were not a lot of women athletes. It wasn't a natural choice for me. But now I'm seeing in the young children, in these amateur tournaments, half of them practically are girls. And they are going to step into your shoes and follow your imprint. And the sport is going to get stronger from the bottom up. It's just going to have to be because they're doing it.
And
A lot of it has to
agree
do with how
100%.
you promote yourself as a fighter or as a person in general. If you're not out there on your own, if you're waiting for someone to promote you, you might be waiting forever. So you put out there just who you are as a person on social media and involve people and create mentorships and create a place for people to know who you are as a boxer and a person. And those things, even though you're not being promoted on, let's say, TV, let's say you're being promoted on just a social media network, people are going to follow you. Kids are going to see you. Kids are going to hit you in the DMs and say, hey, you're going to be in my city. Can I get a picture? Just anything small. And that will eventually start to grow.
In order for it
Absolutely.
to work,
And
we
that
have
goes-
to have an institutional adoption of women's boxing. You know, Christy, I remember distinctly being as a TV executive and watching Christy on Don's cards. And she was an incredible attraction. And I became interested in women's boxing. The issue with the business, and particularly even at that time, was when the business is dominated by individual promoters, they have their own individual objectives. And you need more than that. You need a Showtime or you need a DAZN to take an institutional adoption of women and to tell promoters, I want women on these cards. I'm going to show these women more often. I'm going to show them more frequently. I'm going to feature them. I'm going to do feature programs on them. And it can't be occasional. And Christy lit a fire. It was a spark that turned to a fire. What happened then was the flame burned out because there wasn't a continuation of it and there wasn't a capitalizing on that phenomenon. Right now, particularly as you look at Clarissa and Katie as two great examples amongst an enormous and outstanding crop of women fighters, there's that opportunity again. And I know what I spend my time doing is talking to Showtime, talking to DAZN, talking to anybody about the need to institutionally adopt women's boxing. I've met many times with Dana White. We've spoken about it a lot. You know, we were talking before about UFC. They're a great organization for women's boxing. And if they want to get into boxing, I don't know if anybody will do it as well or as quickly as UFC because they control their brand and they know exactly how strong women can be for a brand. They're a living, breathing example. So if they would expand to boxing and put women in the ring, I think we would take off like a rocket right away. I'm hopeful they do get into boxing. I'm waiting for that. Christy.
I just think that when Jill was right to start at the bottom, and that's with the amateur program. Now that amateurs are everywhere, amateur tournaments are all over the country, all over the world, and women are involved in that at a young age 8 or 9, they can start boxing and competing. So, and it's not like if you're a young girl now, you don't feel like there's something wrong if you want to go to the gym. It's okay.
Exactly.
We didn't have that. We didn't have that. So now it is okay. So we've crossed over so many hurdles already. We get that young girls really perfecting their skills. And now, I mean, let's just call it what it is. Trainers know that they can take a good female fighter and make money with them. And they're going to be more willing to train and to help promote these female fighters that want to be professionals. And that's going to help us grow the sport. I mean, and the women have to be able to reach out, bring more fans in, and these are just like what the guys have to do. It doesn't matter always how good or how bad you are. It's how much you can market yourself, how much you can bring interest, how many butts you can bring and put in the arena. That's what it comes down to. And usually with the female fights, that's why the female fights are usually the best fights on the card, because we're all about fighting. We want to fight. We want to prove that we belong there. So we're going to be able to entertain everybody that's there. We can put butts in the seats, given the opportunity.
what Jessica said is right. Whether you're a boxer or an actor, you're a freelancer, you are your best agent. You have to go out there and market yourself, sell yourself, get yourself fans. Not everyone's going to be able to do that for you. You've got to create a star. I mean, I wish talent were enough, and sometimes it is. Talent should be enough, but it's the marketing, the self-marketing, the pushing. Again, whether you're an actress or a boxer or any freelance profession, it's so essential for you to take it and take the power and push yourself out. Take your power.
You have to be a total package, right? I mean, you have to be able to speak, you have to be able to perform, and you also have to be able to have those big shoulders to carry all of everything that comes with it too, right? So I would
And thick
agree.
skin.
Thick skin is definitely it. But Jessica says you have to promote yourself and sell yourself, be put out there so you're wanted. Demand is big, right? Supply and demand.
Still, as much marketing as you can do, self-marketing. I mean, today now we have different opportunities. I mean, back in Christie's days, there was no social media. That is definitely a big chance for everybody. But let's talk about the market side for a little bit. Tina, I know you have been working as a teacher. Are you still working as a teacher, or can you live from boxing now?
Both. I still work as a teacher, but only once a week, and the rest I just do boxing. So I only can live through my sponsors, not through the boxing by itself. And I still have to work at school, so that's enough for me to live.
And that is a fighter who's on TV here in Germany, but the market itself, the whole boxing market, and that's male and female, is just not good enough to feed the fighters. Raja, tell us a little bit about your career. You had to work during your whole career and to do your regular job?
Yeah. So I worked during my whole career for two reasons. One reason was like boxing was not feeding me enough, if you want. So I had television time on major television stations across Europe and also in Asia and the Middle East and everything. But it wasn't enough to feed you because like you can fight like 2-3 times a year, but unfortunately the year has 12 months. So you still have to pay rent. But I was lucky because I had a good education. I could work at the office and play around with my time, when to go to the office, when to go to the gym, and put that somehow together. So, and on the other hand, I always challenge myself, okay, will you ever be at the nice place like one of the big fighter will be that you fight and then you are done for the rest of your life and you have money to live? And I thought, well, the likelihood is really low. So I should have a good education, I should have a good job, and I should work in that job because there is a time after boxing when there is no boxing and when you will retire at some point, and when the money you earn, doesn't matter how high it is, it will never reach the amount like a Klitschko had or somebody, and you still have to pay rent. So there were like two reasons. One reason is boxing was not feeding me, and I was looking beyond boxing and looking into what kind of opportunity will I have and will it feed me for the next 50 years? And I quickly realized it will not. So I continue my education and my work, actually. It was really a pragmatic approach.
Jessica, you're a full professional fighter, or do you have a second career?
I am actually, I have my computers and everything set up right now. I have a career. I'm in finance and investment banking. And so it's really crazy as far as like my schedule goes, and I have to fit boxing in before, during, and after. And RJ O'Brien, the firm I'm with, they're so supportive, and they've sponsored me for numerous fights. And so they're definitely in this with me as far as making sure that my goals with my job are met, and also my second job, boxing, are met. And I just think it's really funny that, you know, I went to school, I got my education in communications. So, you know, being on TV and being on the radio and being able to manipulate all of those formats and print and design and photography, and I didn't use any of those things, I guess you can say, in the real world after college, but I'm blessed enough to be able to use that for my boxing. So if we want to create some kind of, advertisement, whether it's print or take some pictures, or if we want to shoot a quick video between myself and the team that we have, we can do that. And that's kind of just using the resources that you have to promote yourself.
And Jelena, I know you opened the gym, or you work as a trainer?
I opened a gym, but throughout my entire career, I've worked, I think three. I don't know. I'm a family-owned business, and then I'm an entrepreneur on the side. So I feel like you're always constantly working. Boxing is definitely something that I do for fun, I guess. Fun. You can use air quotes with that one. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be able to find a way to use boxing and create a business. And I have a fitness studio, so not training young female fighters yet, but training just fitness, because I love the sport of boxing so much. I wanted to bring what I loved about the sport to anybody, accessible to anybody and everybody to do it.
So we see what Christy said in the beginning. We've come a long way, but we still got a long way to go, obviously, because we have reigning world champions sitting here, all talking about the real jobs besides boxing. It's crazy. I mean, you wouldn't, if we would be like all male reigning world champions here, they wouldn't talk about their careers and about working in finance, I believe.
But if you go back to like the 50s or the 60s, they would be. So it's just a question of evolution and progression.
Yeah, I mean, I've had 52 fights, so I mean, I've got a lot of knocks in the head, and I'm still working a job. So
I know. I mean, and I think of some of those really talented women who sort of missed the boat in terms of when women's boxing sort of went like that in like 2008, 2009, like 𝗧𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗 and Belinda Lafuente, and a lot of talented people, and they just, all of the small promoters that like Arnie and Cece that had women's boxing just went kaput with the depression, and they really missed it all together. I always feel bad about them because they really have talent.
Okay, to wrap up the round, we do one final round. Everybody, please tell us being the WBC, what can we do to make women's boxing better, to help you, to help the industry? Christy, give us some thoughts on what you think we should improve, how we can make the boxing world a little bit better.
You know what, I can only really give praise to the WBC, because way back in my time, 1996, right before the Dieter Gogarty fight, I was awarded an honorary WBC title by Senior Jose Sulaiman, and that was such an honor. And there's no better feeling than having that green belt put around your waist, whether it be an honorary title or later in my career, I won a real title. But I just think to encourage the promoters that to continue to put female fighters out there, to make the best fighters fight each other. It's hard. I think we're on the right path. It's just going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of a little push from the networks. I mean, and that's where probably that's where we need to catch up. Is the WBC's pushing hard. The promoters, some of the promoters are working hard to give women opportunities, but we haven't 100% sold the networks yet. I mean, Showtime's putting Clarissa out there, but are they putting other females? I so far haven't seen other females. The Zone, they're doing Katie Taylor, but are they opening up to other women? I'm not sure. So I think everybody wants to focus on one female. Let's focus on women's boxing and not just one personality, one talent.
I think Christy's bang on there, and I think it's your job as an individual athlete to be exciting and to represent yourself well. If I was a man and I wasn't exciting, I wouldn't be headlining shows either. So regardless, I think the WBC, like Christy said, is doing an amazing job. I think bang on. We need to get We need to have some of these promoters, these big network televisions step up and help us out in our journey. However, the females have to be exciting and they have to be exciting fights. And I've said this probably every convention we've been to, because I've heard everybody cry about how they need help. Well, you also need to help yourself in the process of doing this. So I'm excited for the steps that we've already taken, and I'm excited to where we are going and where we're growing. And I think we just need to keep the movement happening.
Well said. Thank you. I agree.
I think the
Jessica, anything
WBC,
we need?
yeah, the WBC is doing a really great job with the different aspects, not just the pro level, but with WBC Cares reaching out to the community and kind of being a leader as far as showing fighters and upcoming fighters of what they should be and what they should be doing and how they should be involved. Also working with the amateurs and having the amateur green belt competitions. If they don't know, what goals they're looking towards, they won't work towards those goals. So I think it's very important to keep the kids involved, keep the community involved. So much praise there. I think I'm really appreciating that everybody, we're just champions, taking female out, taking male out, because the more you separate male and female, the more the viewers are going to separate male and female and say things, maybe in a negative connotation about female boxing versus men's boxing. And it shouldn't be a comparison. It should be a whole WBC boxing platform. And so I really appreciate the new belts that are coming out and everybody being a champion.
Great.
I'm still waiting for that belt. It just says champion and not female, by the way. FYI.
It's coming. It's coming. So Malte, let me say this. It's not even appropriate to say that the WBC is doing more than other organizations. The WBC is doing what no one else does. They're in a league by themselves. All of you have been leaders and trendsetters and game changers, and you imply that set of beliefs, and you wear it just like you wear green. And that's critical to keep that going. I think also it's important to integrate the women with the men into everything possible. The more we take the focus off of the gender labels, the more we see the men and the women together in the same places, at the same fights. You have influence over promoters. You can encourage promoters to make sure women are fighting. You can encourage promoters to have women at fights when men are fighting. I mean, I encourage Clarissa to be at every big men's fight so that she's part of the scene, part of the fabric and of boxing, and that there is no distinction. I want her hanging out with those guys and being part of it. The more we do that, the more, and the UFC did that very well. That is what had the fans knock the barriers down, and they didn't see a difference between the men and the women. And I know I try to do that with the 3 or 4 female boxers that I work with, and I think it's something that's very important. The other thing is we do need to pressure institutionally the networks, because they have the money to make the difference. The promoters don't always, we can't let the promoters' single interest or self-interest put a lid on or walls around the expansion of women's boxing. And, sometimes it creates unpleasant situations. There are times I've got to open my mouth and talk to people, and, I do it because, frankly, at this point in my career, I can do it and I can get away with it. And I've earned, some experience and some points to be able to do it in the rooms. But you folks at the WBC have that capital as well. Use that capital. When you speak, you'd be amazed at how much people listen and how much they'll execute, because they want to be with you. They want to be in your favor. And in the end, they know that you do what's right. So go with those beliefs and continue to push those walls out and those ceilings higher.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Tina, something you want to add?
Well, I absolutely agree that the WBC is doing a great job in women boxing. And for me personally, it's the feeling that women boxing is equal to the men. And yeah, I think we're on a great way. And I have to say that the new belts are great. Without the female, I love it.
And Raza, famous last words?
Miss Lesworld, for me, it's like a symphony in between different things. One thing is the promoter who gives you the opportunity to fight. The other thing, as Jelena, doesn't matter which gender you are. If you're not exciting, then you will not come again. And the third thing is around WBC, which great job the organization is already doing and could even do more because people are listening to this organization, but also listening to us as female boxers. Breaking down the boundaries will take time, and everybody has to do something for it. And if everybody just put something into it, doesn't matter if it's the fight or the promoter, the organization or television, then we will be there eventually.
So thank you very much. Jill, something you want to add?
I think it comes down to, given that everyone has the talent, I go back to what everyone else is saying, social media, marketing yourselves. The WBC has a great social media department, Nancy and Pepe Tonio, they'll really work it for you, but you yourselves, it's all about giving the talent, networking, be seen, get your face out there, get your passion out there, take the power back. You've got a lot of power. You walk in that room, you turn ahead. I'm telling you, take that power and use it.
Great. Now I can tell you, Victor has been texting me for 20 minutes that we have to stop, but I don't want to stop, to be honest, because you're all great. You've been great. Thank you very much for being part of this. And yeah, thank you for everything you added, every single one of you. Victor, you can turn on your microphone now and just shout at me, and then we can wrap it up here.
Malte, stop. I want to thank each of
Thank all of
you.
you.
I really enjoyed this. There's people watching in the US, Brazil, Spain, Mexico, UK, Panama, Thailand, Argentina, Russia, and Germany. There's a lot of people that I want to thank for watching us. Rose Watts, Chris Bielu, Joe Serrat, Tania Alvarez, Len Cortesino, Eri Montalvo, Mike Miranda, Kevin Noon, Stephen Blea, Paul Bank, Nancy Rodriguez, Karin Dersign, Marie, Pepe Suleiman, Gabriel Gonzalez, and also I want to thank the WBC University people that is helping, Paul Landeros, that is helping me also with the media. I have just one more question that I really need to do. I have to make this question. I would like to ask Christy Martin, what was the feeling of being the front page of Sport Illustrated at that time? I really need that answer. I've been trying to do that question.
There was no feeling like that. I mean, it was awesome. And that magazine came out actually the same day that I moved into my house, a new house. So it was a great prideful day.
It must be. Well, I want to thank you again, all of you. I would like to have 3 more hours. I'm sure we can fill them. But thanks, Christy. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Jill. Thanks, Raja. Thanks, Jessica. Jelena. You know, I'm holding you, yeah. You know why? Malte, wonderful job. And I hope we can do it again. Tina, thank you very much. And we should have one more round with you, okay?
Well,
and as
Thank you so much.
graphic said, champions, okay?
Thank
As
you.
you said that, Jessica. Thank you very much for being our champions.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe, stay
Bye.
healthy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Say goodbye. Goodbye.